from the studios of Clean Fuels Alliance America, this is the Better, Cleaner, Now podcast. Authentic conversations with leaders in the biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel industries. Now, here's your host, Scott Tremaine.
And welcome. This week on a special episode, Clean Fuels Director of Outreach and Development, Tom Very, is joined by Rear Admiral Lynn Herring, Navy retired, to discuss his service and the Navy's early adoption of biodiesel as a solution for energy independence.
Admiral Herring, it's great to have you join us this week. Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. It's July 3rd, the day before July 4th. We're celebrating our Independence Day, and we want to. It's a very special to have you, a retired Admiral, U.S. Navy Admiral, to join us the day before 4th of July. Thank you for your service. Thanks for all the men and women that serve, that provide the freedom.
Well, that's what it's all about, Tom. Great to see you, and thanks for inviting me to be part of this effort. I really do appreciate it, on especially this particular day, celebrating our independence and then being chosen to be that person to represent it.
Well, we thank you for your service, and we thank you so much what you've done for biodiesel, for National Biodiesel Board, now Clean Fuels. You have a great story. I don't know where we're going to start. We could be here for 2 hours. But why don't we just start? Why don't you give us a little background about yourself, Lynn?
Sure. I come from a Navy family. My dad was World War II, Vietnam, and Korea. I ended up in the period of time in which, military wasn't the way to go. As a matter of fact, my father really didn't want me to join the military. So I ended up getting drafted when I was a senior in high school. And to avoid the draft.
You became an admiral to avoid the draft?
Yeah, avoid the draft. Yeah, well, I went to Maritime College where I got an ROTC scholarship and completed it, and then decided that I would end up doing my 4 and gone. And 32 and a half years later,
oh my!
I looked at my wife and said, it's time to go. It was an incredible career. I absolutely was I've been almost around the world, every place. I've been in 63 different countries, 154 different ports, made more than 8 deployments, all over the place. Been to the Mediterranean, been to the Indian Ocean, Persian Gulf, in those areas, and just enjoyed my time. Some of the times were a little bit rougher than others, but I can say at the end of it, I'm honored and privileged to have been capable of performing the tasks that this country asked of me.
Well, you have an amazing history, career. Tell us, you were a base commander for the San Diego Navy base?
Correct. I came from, I did all my shipboard tours, then I went to the Naval Academy. I was a battalion officer at the Naval Academy, and I was looking for the next thing to do, and one of my bosses said, Len, what we need you to do based upon your degree and where the Navy is at this particular point is for you to be a base commander. I have a master's in business as well as a master's from War College in strategic studies and development. But they said, look, we need somebody who's got a business experience because our budget's changing. We're in the midst of fighting a war. And we need to find different alternatives so that we can save money, support the war, and not have an influence on base operations and fleet support. So I got sent to be Naval Base Commanding Officer, and it was a job that I really didn't want. I wanted to go back to sea. I wanted to go be a destroyer squadron commander, but then I found out that it was probably one of the more challenging jobs that I could have possibly had. It was a tough job because everything seems to be rooted in business, but business as usual, and I was asked to go and create a different business mantra. And that's how I got involved. I looked at all the different places, I looked at the business model, and realized that there were 3 specific areas that we had control of, and one was energy, one was trash, and one was building structure. So that's really where I went. And I got heavily involved in the electrical portion. I got heavily involved in the process of figuring out how to be more economical and safe. And here we are.
That's fascinating. Like, can you give our listeners a little sense of what does U.S. Navy Base San Diego means? I mean, how many people, how many ships?
Oh, sure. Naval Base San Diego is the largest naval facility on the west coast of the United States. There are roughly 154 commands. I think there are 72 ships homeported there now. Right next to it is Naval Base Coronado, and then Naval Base Point Loma is right on the other side of the bay. The Naval Base Coronado is where all the aircraft, helicopters and such that support the fleet operate. And then Naval Base Point Loma, which is on the other side of the bay, supports all of our attack submarines that are local in that area.
Wow. I know I've been with you on the base. It's a massive facility. It's confusing for a civilian. And to imagine you're in charge of 150 different commands
Sure.
and thousands of people.
Yeah, the support element for every one of them. And my job was to make sure that the base support provided everything that the base needed without impacting their particular mission. So I learned a lot, and I also got engaged in an awful lot of effort as the Navy moved to try to find different ways. I installed the first solar system in the Department of Defense. We implemented the first stage of water conservation and energy conservation. We created an opportunity for, and this is where I became involved with the biodiesel product. We saw a need to be able to find alternatives to fossil fuel as part of a strategic war game. That was one of the efforts that came out of that game, saying, okay, so where can we go?
When was that, Lynn?
That was in 1999.
Wow.
In 1999, we got involved in, and I met the founder of New Leaf Bioproduct, which was just down the road from where we were. And that effort led us to creating a program in which the Secretary of the Navy said, okay, let's go ahead and see where we can go.
That's unbelievable. There was actually a biodiesel plant basically right across the street from San Diego Navy Base.
Right.
I mean, maybe down the road. I mean, a mile from the gate. And
correct.
Yeah, I think that was, New Leaf, and they're still there. I think they're still distributing and selling biodiesel. So
I think so.
In 1999, I was looking back at the demand graph, Lynn, and it was like, I think 2002, we had 200 million gallon demand, and probably then it was under 100 million. So that was amazing that we showed up on your radar somehow as far as energy security.
Well,
is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it came out of a strategic war game that the Navy had looked at. And one of the efforts was to see if we could find alternatives for domestic use of fuel that would eliminate the need to supply both domestic fuel requirements and support a war. And biodiesel became one of those efforts where when I came back as a regional commander in 2002, we seriously took a look at how to do that in conjunction with my Marine Corps friend, Major General Mike Leendert, who was the Marine Installations West. We took on an effort to minimize and, for all practical purposes, eliminate all of the non-tactical diesel use and transfer it to a biodiesel product. So what we were basically doing was proving that the non-tactical diesel equipments used on our bases to support the fleet could in fact use a biodiesel product in that transition period.
When was that? When you became area commander, Lynn? I mean, so tell the listeners, what does that mean?
Yeah, so I was the regional commander of the Pacific Northwest, which is Oregon, Washington, Alaska, and the Dakotas. But there, I continued my efforts, but it was a little bit different because I was really doing the study of. And then in 2005, I was reassigned as the Southwest Regional Commander, and that's the Navy commander responsible for the 6 states of the southwestern United States. And then the ocean space from the Pacific to the Marianas. So I was the environmental control officer for all of that period.
Wow.
So that kept me pretty busy, but again, at that point in time, I was able to work with Mike Leendert, who was Marine Corps Installations West, and we transitioned our non-tactical.
What year was that, Lynn?
It's 2005.
2005, and you actually...
Correct.
Jennifer Case was at New Leaf. Was it Jennifer you ever
Yes.
worked with? Yes.
And Jennifer, actually her husband is the one that I met first.
Okay.
And then Jennifer took over as basically the CEO. Mm-hmm. And I worked with her throughout the entire period. I was the base commanding officer, and then re-engaged with her when we got back, because what we ended up doing was transitioning, and our demands became so high that New Leaf was not able to provide 100% of our needs. So then we went to a product that was provided to us from a distributor in Arizona, which actually got a little dicey because the price went up a little bit more, and I got in a little bit of hot water with the secretary for cost overruns, but it worked.
Wow. I mean, that's such an early time in our industry when we were still very new, very, very, very small. And then, somebody that was in the industry at that time, and I mean, you don't have any idea how exciting it was for us to have the Navy, have the Marines starting using biodiesel in a real way and helping promote it. And so we want to thank you for that. And I also got the listeners. I first met Admiral Herring in his. He was retired, and where were you working, Lynn? I met you at your office at the San Diego.
I was at the Center for Sustainable Energy.
Yeah, that's it.
So I was the president of a large sustainable energy company, a nonprofit, but worked very large efforts in the sustainable sector.
Yeah, I remember I first met you. I was nervous as heck. You still make me nervous. Admiral Herring, he's like 6'4". He looks like he comes from Hollywood Central, from what an admiral's supposed to look like. And Scott and I are still sitting up in our chairs right now. You got the boss vibe, that's for sure. So you're perfect for being an admiral. So
thank you. It was an amazing job, and just the connection with people such as yourself, Tom, really made things so much more credible, because the friendships that were created helped the conversation, even when and I have to give Secretary Denny McGinn, Vice Admiral, retired Admiral Denny McGinn, who became the Assistant Secretary of the Navy for installations and energy. He jumped on it full force.
Wow.
And the relationships that we had created were the reason why he saw the need to try to figure out how to get there from here. And he was the one who helped us make the changes and create the opportunities similar to what the Air Force was doing, using a biodiesel product in exchange for the old product, and proving that we could do that. So they were flying aircraft from coast to coast with a biodiesel product. We were actually utilizing it to do our coastal shore aviation supports. We were using it in our tug elements. We were beginning to use it as a substitute for ship fuels. And when that happened, Secretary McGinn actually caused a small battle group to deploy with a biodiesel product, proving that we could get there from here, which in all practicality, for us in that effort, showed that the biodiesel product was in fact a solution if we ran out of the opportunity to continue our standard fuel sources.
Well, you were so far ahead of your time, Lynn. Maybe you don't even realize it now, but I mean, now we got sustainable aviation fuel.
Right.
We got a 300 million gallon plant coming online into this year. We got another $3.5 billion expansion up in Paramount, California. That's starting to really take hold. We got marine biodiesel now. We got cruise ship lines buying biodiesel.
Right.
You were using that in all kinds of different applications long before the market was. So thank you for being a pioneer and breaking trail for this industry for us.
Well, I think that, if it hadn't been that defense was touting the successes, you would not have seen commercial aviation jumping as quickly as they did, nor marine doing the same thing.
Oh, absolutely not. You're right.
Yeah.
I was telling you a story. I was in San Diego a couple of years ago in Coronado. It was in the evening. We're at a local bar and met a retired Navy pilot, and we were talking about what each other has done. And he goes, "Yeah, I flew on the SAF." What'd you think? I goes, "Well, I've done crazier things than that." So yeah, it works.
It works.
I'm sure he did. So it
works.
So you got involved with Clean Fuels or National Biodiesel Board at the time, and really in an official capacity as a biodiesel ambassador, sponsored by United Soybean Board. Thank you, USB. And with that role, you really were able to even take the message out to even a bigger audience. You worked with us that we can't thank you enough for doing. You went. I know we've been in New York City together. You gave talks and all over the country. Talk about that part.
Yeah, and that was really a pleasure because, again, using the experience that we were able to achieve, people who came to the conferences sat back and took note. And I think it opened up some people's eyes with the probabilities that, there are alternatives to the fossil fuel industry that could, in fact, alleviate some of the stresses in industry. And if we were able to do it here, then we could rely more on domestic product for opportunities, as well as looking at the carbon footprint and making sure that we were doing it right. So I really enjoyed talking to people and engaging folks, telling our story. Because again, I think that if the Department of Defense had not been as proactive as it was in the early stages, there may not have been as many individuals willing to be the guinea pig, if you will. Our proof of product showed them that they did not have to be the guinea pig, that they could be the test platform for the rest of the industry to make biodiesel success.
You're absolutely right, Lynn. You were the test platform guinea pig that gave other potential users of our fuel the confidence to move forward. And those fleet managers looking out there saying, "Well, should we do this or not?" It's like, we as Clean Fuels, we could talk to them all day long. It's like, yeah, we hear you, but they really need that third party confirmation, and there's no better one than the U.S. military, the Navy, and Marine Corps. So
right. In the maritime field. I mean, I'm a maritime college graduate, and I intend to, the new president has just been selected. He's an admiral friend, Okran, and I intend to drop him a note and say, you know what, maybe somebody needs to take a look at the biodiesel industry and teach your engineers how to do this.
Oh, yeah. Great idea. And if we can help, we would love to. If there's a role we can play, let us know. We'd be happy to talk to them.
Yeah.
We're getting more and more interest from the marine industry on using biodiesel. Their customers, their supply chain customers, are asking for a lower carbon supply chain. And what they're finding out, biodiesel is the lowest cost, low carbon fuel out there.
Correct. Yeah, we learned that right from the very beginning, even to the fact that when we did, the California Air Quality Board was amazed by the difference in the carbon footprint for our diesel fork trucks, because we had to go through that product of making sure that they were right. And the CARB was shocked by the reduction in the carbon footprint of that same 12-ton diesel fork truck.
Is that right? I didn't know that CARB was paying attention to that closely. I guess I should have known that. It's California.
Yeah, well, we had to get a certification anytime we did major work. So you had to map your carbon footprint so that you get a permit, and they were surprised by the reduction.
Well, again, that helped lay the groundwork there for the market in California.
Right.
Last year, we had can you imagine this, 4.6 billion gallon market, Lynn?
Wow.
Compared to where we started in 1999, 2005.
And if you remember right, I said we couldn't get enough product from the California distributors. Had to go to Arizona.
There you go. And now California is half that market, over 2 billion gallon market in California. And 60-some% of the diesel pool in California is a combination of biodiesel, renewable diesel now, which
that's fantastic.
Us old timers, we just kind of scratch our heads and like it's amazing. But is the Navy still using biodiesel, Lynn? I can't say with certainty that they are, but I think that in some cases
those products that were purchased, because remember we purchased new equipments so that we didn't have the same problems with the cleaning that the biodiesel product did for the combustion engines.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, my maintenance dollars went through the roof for the first year because the biodiesel was cleaning out the engines, and I was getting a lot more maintenance requirements. It burns cleaner. It's much more efficient. The power standards were increased and not decreased as what was expected. So again, that's one of the reasons why working with tugs and other things, we tested that to make sure that there wasn't a loss in power. Come to find out, no reduction whatsoever. So now I think the tugs in San Diego are still using a biodiesel.
This is the Better, Cleaner, Now podcast.
I'm Tom Very, and we're speaking with Admiral Leendert, retired U.S. Navy. The market in California is a big opportunity, but it's a very complicated market. They like to say we're a great market, but we'll never tell you we're an easy market, and that's definitely true.
Right.
There's always they're always pushing to go on to the next thing, and so they're going to be. They got the low carbon fuel standard there that really jumpstart our market. They have a 20% carbon reduction goal. I think they're going to take that to 30% now. And so in biodiesel and renewable diesel will play a big role in that. And thanks to you, that the work you did, the U.S. Navy and the Marines, really helped us put us in a position to be successful in that market. So how'd you like working with the Marines? Since my dad's a former Marine.
Hey, they're part of the team.
Oh, okay.
We can't do Navy business without our Marine partners.
All right. Good to hear. Good to hear.
So, I just say that every experience I've ever had with my Marine brethren has been a positive one. And we did right from the very beginning. I was in Lebanon. We were there to both protect and take care of those that suffered the consequences of their actions. And then, I've had interaction with Marines through the rest of my life. Worked hard with the Marines when I was on the Joint Staff, worked hard with the Marines when I became the regional commander and the base commander, because we all needed the same thing. And our Marines, our Navy sailors and the Marines, we all supported one another because we were all part of the same infrastructure element. So Mike and I worked really hard together to get things done. We created huge conservation zones. We created large standoffs that protected, military facilities from intrusion by outside, so that our military missions were not compromised. But the communication of opportunity in environmental conservation was preserved.
Well, I remember talking to you as area commander, Southwest. I mean, you have millions of acres that you're responsible for, and you were telling me the different things that you're doing to how you could still do your military mission, your training, but still do it maybe in a more environmental way. Yep. And I think that's where you met our mutual friend Jim Evanoff. Oh yeah, out in Yellowstone.
As a matter of fact, I went to a conference at Yellowstone, met Jim, and we have corresponded and connected numerous times. Just had a wonderful experience, and again, for the same reason, trying to make sure that our mission did not impact the environment, and recognizing that that's all what we live for. Making sure that we're not impacting, and Jim provided for me some really amazing information on how Yellowstone, has come alive, because we've been more concerned about the environment and our impact. So I tried to do the same thing that Jim was teaching from that perspective, and we, both Mike and I, worked really, really hard to make sure that the Navy and our operations, both at sea and ashore, had minimal impact in our environment. Worked very, very hard when I was the regional commander of the Pacific Northwest. As a matter of fact, was recognized by the Native American tribes as the father of conservation for the Pacific Northwest. We worked hard with the orca groups to make absolutely certain that we were protective, but still, mission oriented. Wow. So yeah,
something like I would never have thought of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ships would hit the whales, the orcas, and
our sonars, sonar operations have major impacts. So how we do that and where we do that and what we do, as a matter of fact, as a consequence of our activities, we actually work with the Secretariat to create a Navy-wide whale watch when we are in the areas known to have whales in them. So we have an observer who's trained to make sure that they are looking out for whales and other things. Our sonar operators are doing the same thing, and if we come across them, we slow to make sure we don't hit them. We don't transit in the perpendicular. We don't use our sonars so that we would harm them. So there's a lot that came out of that particular activity.
That's amazing, the level of commitment that you have, the Navy has for the environment. It speaks well to the commitment going back to biodiesel, renewable diesel,
right.
Seeing that it can play an important role in your commitment to a sustainable and environmentally friendly activities that you conduct as a military. So,
well, thank you.
As one of our relationships between Clean Fuels and yourself, or was National Biodiesel Board, I remember we bring farmers out to California, either part of our conference or we do small farmer trips out there. And I would I'd ask Jim to ask you. Jim Evanoff from friend at Yellowstone. He's like, could you ask the Admiral who can get on another ship tour, please? People, it's really good to know an Admiral. Lynn, you got us on, you got us on a cruiser, amphibious ship, aircraft carrier. I mean, amazing experiences that most people don't get to see. So thank you so much. The farmers still talk about that when I see them.
Well, I'll tell you, it's so very important, and I wish that more Americans would take the opportunity on open house days when they go to see the incredible assets, but more importantly, to see the individuals who are serving and what a tremendous job they have, and two, they do. We absolutely love the opportunity to do underway periods with family and friends. We always have these days where we take people out. We fly people out in aircraft, and we bring them for a day or two on the aircraft carrier actually underway and watch operations. But you see these 18, 19, 20-year-olds doing such amazing work, and we really, really do. And that's one of the reasons why I continue, and I don't have any problem at all when I call up the current regional commander, who's Brad Rosen, and said, "Hey, Brad, I have these farmers from the middle of the country, and they would love to see." And it's like, "Got it, Len, no problem. We'll figure it out." Then he goes to Airpack, he goes to Surfpack, and it figures out how that all happens. And we can do that anywhere. We love the opportunity to be able to show people what our sailors do for a living.
Oh, you're exactly right. On the ship tours, it's all ladders and just more ladders. And
we learned to go up and down them with never touching the treads.
I'd have to have a helmet. I can't. And where they live, they sleep. I mean, they're 18 inches tall bunk.
They're just
for months.
For 6 months at a clip, and sometimes we always say the deployment is the easy part. It's actually the year before, which is the harder part, because the year before you're in preparation for deployment.
Okay.
So you're gone for 2 months, home for 2 weeks, gone for 2 weeks, home for a week, gone for 2 months again. So that year is just crazy because you're just doing training over and over and over again. But when deployment starts, boom, you're gone.
Everybody
and you're
knows
gone for 6 months, and you come back home again.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really that 2-year cycle. But to be perfectly honest with you, Tom, if they asked me tomorrow if I would like to go back, other than the fact that my wife would probably shoot me, I'd be gone. My bags would be packed before I finished the phone call.
Yeah, your beautiful wife, Sharon, I've got an opportunity to get to know her a little bit. It's so much fun talking to both of you about your career and your experience, both of your experience, because she had to be at home when you were out on the
And my oldest he just retired from the Navy.
Navy.
A submariner.
Wow. How did he pick submarines?
Well, he thought, Dad was a surface guy, and he wouldn't know anybody in the submarine community. So he said, "I'm gonna go the other route." So throughout the entire period, it's always been, is the target home, and I had to keep reminding him that we're on the same team.
He's calling you the target. Is that how
submariners call surface guys the targets? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We call them sewer tube sailors.
Oh, wow! Right back at them, right? Well, we love you all. It's amazing sacrifice you all do, and the ship tours that you provided were amazing. I mean, I would walk up behind you as you were going on the ship. When Admiral comes on board, it's a big deal, and Admiral on deck, and they have a special call or something. Yeah. That was fun, and then I'd be right behind you, and they would look at me, and they're like, some guy. So, yeah, it was cool. And hopefully we can do it some more in the future. The farmers absolutely love it, and it's amazing what these young men and women do for us. Is very humbling to me.
And it's surprising, you have. As a matter of fact, we were on the carrier once, and there was a young lady who was on the helm, and she was 18 years old. And when the CO was introducing her to the three other folks who were the visitors there, she said, well, a year ago, I was just struggling through high school. And today, I'm driving America's most powerful warship.
Well, she had her driver's license, couldn't be 2 years old yet. And then she's driving.
No, she's just a young sailor, learned how to do the helm and taking her orders from the conning officer. And, a year ago, she was struggling through high school, and now she's driving a super carrier.
Well, that's an amazing testament to the Navy and the training program and the dedication of all the sailors that serve. So what's next? Where do you think we're going to go in the future? We got, you helped us get biodiesel, going from just a dream to now we're like 8% of the total diesel pool in the United States. There's a lot more work to do. There's a lot of issues we need to address. So where do you see us going with the fuel, with sustainability in general?
Well, to be perfectly honest with Tom, I don't care what administration comes about. I believe that if we are to succeed to the future, then we need to promote domestic solutions to a smaller carbon footprint without a major impact on the way we live today. And if we think that everything's going to go electric or whatever else, again, I'm a champion of sustainability. I'm a meteorologist and oceanographer by degree, so I understand the effects and the climate aspects, and a climatologist by study, so yeah, I get it. But at the same time, we cannot ask the population to just literally give up its lifestyle as if tomorrow we're all going to live differently and everybody's going to have a battery and it's all going to work. It's not. And we need to figure out over the course of the next 50 to 60 years how to transition successfully. And biodiesel is part of that product.
Well put.
Biodiesel has got to be part of that solution in the same fashion as is the translation for more energy efficient or more gas efficient vehicles. Instead of 10 miles to the gallon, we prohibit that type of automotive capacity on our roads, and we get down to the point where, we've got select hybrids who are doing all kinds of different stuff, and we got 40, 50 miles to the gallon or, what have you. But the product that you produce and we're talking about today is everything that is needed for the commercial sector of this country to stay alive. And you can't get there from here. I just watched a program where the first 18-wheeler with a battery was shown. And it was absurd because the battery was 2/3 of the truck's weight. And it's like, okay, so now you have to have 3 more trucks of this capacity to carry what one truck can carry if it were using a biodiesel product as opposed to a carbon-rich diesel fuel. So you are the solution. There is capacity for us to be able to do this differently. The maritime fleet is never going to go to an electric engine. It's just not going to happen. And we're never going to get enough sun or enough wind to push 40,000 tons through the ocean. But biodiesel can be there. It's there. It's clean.
Yeah.
It's a product that we control, not our potential enemies.
Yeah, Lynn, you'll like this. We're about ready to publish a B100 spec for marine application through ISO standards.
All right.
It's been approved. It's been voted on, and it'll be published here shortly. That's going to open up the door for higher blends of biodiesel use on the ocean-going ships. And we're working with our in DC to get the RFS marine application included in the renewable fuel standard, so they can participate in that program as well. And we're still working on they demand proof of sustainability, which is fine. And so we're working to develop a U.S. version of that could be accepted on the international marine market. So lots of opportunity there. Love to see if the tugs are still working, still using that in the San Diego naval base. So.
Well, I think that, and if it is, Tom, I think that's a place where, from an industrial port, it's the area that probably deserves the greatest attention.
Yep. Because
one tug provides the same carbon footprint as a 1-hour traffic jam in lower LA. And when you recognize that it's not a transit source, a tug works all day long, moving from ship to ship to ship to ship. It's there in the port. It doesn't leave the port. So using biodiesel in the tug has a significantly reduced carbon footprint for those stationary assets. They're like a fork truck, but they're just moving around in the port itself.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been talking to the Port of Long Beach, Port of LA, about some of their tenants using biodiesel, and that's happening. To reduce their carbon footprint, to reduce that supply chain. So it's happening. It really, California is in the forefront in adopting biodiesel, renewable diesel. Like I said, 60%, 61% now is biodiesel, renewable diesel. You go up and down I-5, you'll see at least B20, and sometimes you're not even going to find petroleum diesel at some truck stops. It's amazing.
Good.
Isn't that amazing?
That's phenomenal. And
it is.
And it was, at the beginning, it was just find me a truckload so that I could get this product into my inventory.
Well, and also you were looking for biodiesel for your ships in the base, but you were providing feedstock to New Leaf for Jennifer Case's biodiesel plant.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We created a whole system where everybody who used deep fat fryers and everything else, whether it be a ship, whether it be our food groups out in the galleys, or our restaurants, because we had McDonald's on board, we had Kentucky Fried Chicken, and some other folks. We collected all of their material, all their oils, and we provided it to New Leaf. They came and picked it up. We put a disposable site on board at our recycling center, and it all got dumped in there, and then New Leaf came and picked it up and became fuel source.
And sold it back to you as fuel.
Sold it back to us.
That's amazing. Our friend Jim Evanoff out in Yellowstone will give a shout. He was the park ranger that introduced biodiesel into the park in 1994, which predates.
Yeah, there you
go. That was even crazier. He had to do a bear cracked test to make sure the bears weren't going to, since they got that French fry smell, the bears go chase the trucks or the buses.
Trucks. I never thought of that. Yeah.
So you and Jim, it's so much fun to see you guys together. You have that passion you're both visionaries, both willing to take some risks and try new things, because you have a bigger vision on where we need to go with sustainability and being caretakers of our environment. So it's been a lot of fun for me. I had a chance to be with both of you and kind of learn from both of you on that.
Well, it's been a pleasure. It truly has. I mean, I have enjoyed every step of this journey, because I really do believe that, again, if we look at the opportunities around us and stop thinking that yesterday's solution is the only solution, then we as a being will probably be much more successful going forward. And I think that if we look at this, especially the biodiesel product, as one of those alternatives, yes, it's here in the United States, but it can be virtually anywhere around the world. If we create the understanding of how we can do this better, then this is a fuel source of the future that truly can be a substitute and a transition fuel.
Well, I think you're exactly right. I see the opportunities just growing for biodiesel and renewable diesel and SAF, of course. Right. So I think what you just said about, we got to start, we just can't think doing what we're doing over and over again, what we've done in the past. We got to think outside the box and see how we can, make those adjustments to fit the needs for the future. So, and if you would have told me back in 1999 or 2005, Lynn, we would be at 4.6 billion gallons.
I wouldn't have thought.
Wow. I said, how are we going to get there? So I'm trying to put that thinking that you just, that old thinking to bed. There's ways we can do this. We never would have thought. I mean, we got to 1 billion gallons. That was amazing. Now we're at 4.6 on our way to 5 to 6. So, but I'd love to continue the discussion. I remember you were telling me a story about were you at the base commander when the wildfires broke out, or area commander in San Diego?
Yeah. Well, actually both. We had a major fire that was kept all of us very, very busy. But when I was back as a regional commander, we had I would go on top of my building, and there was fire from horizon to horizon, all the way around from downtown San Diego. You could see it, the entire horizon was nothing but flame. And we provided a significant amount of support. As a matter of fact, one decision was very, very important in the process. I was invited to participate in the roundtable, if you will, with all the principals, all the mayors, and everybody else from all the surrounding cities. And the energy company came and said, we're going to have to shut down power to these particular locations because the power line itself is compromised from the fire. And I said, what's the power differential on the grid? And when they told me, I said, well, I will order all of the ships in port to leave shore power and come on to their own power. And when I did, I was able to take on enough power to the ships where none of the San Diego area suffered a blackout.
Is that right?
So we were able to transition that power. And I think that had a big deal because they didn't lose any power to the water stations or the water pumping stations necessary to maintain the flow. And we had thousands of sailors and Marines that were helping. That was a pretty scary event.
Oh, absolutely. That would be. Horizon, you see nothing but fire.
Nothing but flames.
I remember you set up a pet collection area. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like there was no detail too small for you to address. I mean,
not everybody was able to evacuate and go into a shelter because some people had pets. And, the pets aren't someplace to go. So we opened up the fields in 2 of our stations, and people were allowed to come, tent, and then bring their animals so that they had refuge.
Okay.
And, we had a significant, it looked like Noah's Ark.
I bet.
There were horses, there were llamas, there were turtles, there were rabbits, there were chickens. I mean, they brought whatever they needed to bring because they couldn't keep them on their farm areas and know that they were going to be safe.
Wow. That's an amazing story. It just shows how amazing you are, the Navy is, to, how lucky we are as civilians, too, that have people like you in the service that do these amazing things. And, bottom line, to protect our freedom and protect us. So we really appreciate it, Lynn.
Well, as I say to everyone, it's an honor and a privilege, but every one of you are worth it.
Wow. Well, we try to live up to that. We'll do the best we can as just your average civilian out here, but we'll try to be worthy of your sacrifice.
Yep. I just say, just remember, Understand how good you've got it. There may be days when you don't think things are the best, but the fact that you have a choice means more than you will ever know, having traveled around the world.
Wow. Yeah, I'll try to remember that. I don't have that experience, but I'll take it from you. I do feel very fortunate to be born in the United States, to be American. So, and far as July 4th Eve, I guess that's a good place to bring the discussion to an end. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Lynn, for joining us and everything you've done for our industry.
It's been a privilege, Tom, and again, thanks for inviting me. And I'm glad I was able to do this. And I say to everyone, happy 4th of July. God bless America.
Oh, wow. Admiral Herring, Tom, thank you. What an episode. Yeah. Hey, if you enjoy the podcast and you've got a moment, it really does help us if you give us a rating. It helps the show grow and get more awareness. And if you really want to go for it, just leave us a review. We might just read it here. You can do that wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you've got a question for our experts or a suggestion for a future topic or guest, you can email us at podcasts@cleanfuels.org. And join us next week for another episode of the Better, Cleaner, Now podcast.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. To catch all the latest from Clean Fuels Alliance America, follow us at cleanfuels.org. The Better, Cleaner, Now podcast is a production of Clean Fuels Alliance America. That's all for us. Now it's your turn to be better, cleaner, now.